Thank you all for being here. Thank you. I appreciate you being here on this gorgeous day in a magnificent setting. Do you think about all the lives that were lost here? Please all have a seat. On July 4th, 1863, America woke to the remains of perhaps the most consequential battle in American soil. It took place here on this ground in Gettysburg. 3 days of violence, 3 days of carnage, 50,000 casualties, wounded, captured, missing, or dead over 3 days of fighting. When the sun rose on that Independence Day, Lee would retreat. The war would go on for nearly 2 more years, but the back of the Confederacy had been broken. The Union would be saved. Slavery would be abolished. Government by, and for the people would not perish from the earth. And freedom would be born anew in our land. There's no more fitting place than here today in Gettysburg to talk about the cost of division, about how much it has cost America in the past, about how much it is costing us now, and about why I believe in this moment we must come together as a nation. For President Lincoln, the Civil War was about the greatest of causes: the end of slavery, widening equality, pursuit of justice, the creation of opportunity, and the sanctity of freedom. His words would live ever after. We hear them in our heads, we know them in our hearts, we draw on them when we seek hope in hours of darkness. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Here, on this sacred ground, Abraham Lincoln reimagined America itself. Here, a president of the United States spoke of the price of division and the meaning of sacrifice. He believed in the rescue, redemption, and rededication of the Union. All this in a time not just of ferocious division, but of widespread death, structural inequity, and fear of the future. And he taught us this: a house divided could not stand. That is a great and timeless truth. Today, once again, we are a house divided. But that, my friends, can no longer be. We are facing too many crises. We have too much work to do. We have too bright a future to have it shipwrecked on the shoals of anger and hate and division. As we stand here today, a century and a half later after Gettysburg, we should consider again what can happen when equal justice is denied, when anger and violence and division are left unchecked. As I look across America today, I'm concerned. The country is in a dangerous place. Our trust in each other is ebbing. Hope seems elusive. Too many Americans see our public life not as an arena for mediation of our differences, but rather they see it as an occasion for total, unrelenting partisan warfare. Instead of treating each other's party as the opposition, we treat them as the enemy. This must end. We need to revive the spirit of bipartisanship in this country, a spirit of being able to work with one another. When I say that, and I've been saying it for 2 years now, I'm accused of being naive. I'm told maybe that's the way things used to work, Joe. but they can't work that way anymore. Well, I'm here to tell you they can, and they must, if we're going to get anything done. I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I will govern as an American president. I'll work with Democrats and Republicans. I'll work as hard for those who don't support me as those who do. That's the job of a president, the duty to care for everyone. The refusal of Democrats and Republicans to cooperate with one another is not due to some mysterious force beyond our control. It's a decision. It's a choice we make. And if we can decide not to cooperate, we can decide to cooperate as well. That's the choice I'll make as president. But there's something bigger going on in this nation than just our broken politics. Something darker, something more dangerous. And I'm not talking about ordinary differences of opinion. Competing viewpoints give life and vibrancy to our democracy. No, I'm talking about something different, something deeper. Too many Americans seek not to overcome our divisions, but to deepen them. We must seek not to build walls, but bridges. We must seek not to have our fists clenched, but our arms open. We have to seek not to tear each other apart, but seek to come together. You don't have to agree with me on everything, or even on most things, to see that we're experiencing today is neither good nor normal. I made the decision to run for president after Charlottesville. Close your eyes and remember what you saw. Neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and the KKK coming out of the fields with torches lighted, veins bulging, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. It was hate on the march, in the open, in America. Hate never goes away. It only hides. And when it's given oxygen, when it's given an opportunity to spread, when it's treated as normal and acceptable behavior, we've opened a door in this country that we must move quickly to close. As president, that's just what I will do. I will send a clear, unequivocal message to the entire nation. There is no place for hate in America. It will be given no license. It will be given no oxygen. It will be given no safe harbor. In recent weeks and months, the country has been riled by instances of excessive police force, heart-wrenching cases of racial injustice and lives needlessly and senselessly lost, by peaceful protesters giving voice to the calls for justice, by examples of violence and looting and burning that cannot be tolerated. I believe in law and order. I've never supported defunding the police, but I also believe injustice is real. It's a product of a history that goes back 400 years, from the moment when black men, women, and children first were brought here in chains. I do not believe we have to choose between law and order and racial justice in America. We can't have both. This is a nation strong enough to both honestly face systemic racism and strong enough to provide safe streets for our families and small businesses that too often bear the brunt of this looting and burning. We have no need for armed militias roaming America's streets, and we should have no tolerance for extremist white supremacy groups menacing our communities. If you say we should trust America's law enforcement authorities to do the job, as I do, then let them do their job without extremist groups acting as vigilantes. If you say we have no need to face racial injustice in the country, you haven't opened your eyes to the truth in America. There have been powerful voices for justice in recent weeks and months. George Floyd's 6-year-old daughter, who I met with, who looked at me and said in her small child's voice, "Daddy changed the world." Also, Jacob Blake's mother was another when she said, "Violence didn't reflect her son, and this nation needed healing." And Doc Rivers, the basketball coach, choking back tears when he said, "We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We've been hung." It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back. I think about that. I think about what it takes for a black person to love America. That is a deep love for this country that has for far too long never been recognized. What we need in America is leadership that seeks to de-escalate tensions, to open lines of communications, to bring us together, to heal, to hope. As president, that's precisely what I will do. We paid a high price for allowing the deep divisions in this country to impact on how we deal with the coronavirus. 210,000 Americans dead, and the number's climbing. It's estimated that nearly another 210,000 Americans could lose their lives by the end of the year. Enough. No more. Let's just set partisanship aside. Let's end the politics and follow the science. Wearing a mask is not a political statement. It's a scientific recommendation. Social distancing isn't a political statement. It's a scientific recommendation. Testing, tracing, the development and ultimate approval and distribution of a vaccine isn't a political statement. It is a science-based decision. We can't undo what has been done. We can't go back, but we can do so much better. We can do better starting today. We can have a national strategy that puts politics aside and saves lives. We can have a national strategy that will make it possible for our schools and businesses to open safely. We can have a national strategy that reflects the true values of this nation. This pandemic is not a red state or blue state issue. This virus doesn't care whether you live or where you live, what political party you belong to. It affects us all. It will take anyone's life. It's a virus. It's not a political weapon. There's another enduring division in America that we must end. The division in our economic life that gives opportunity only to the privileged few. America has to be about mobility. It has to be the kind of country where an Abraham Lincoln, a child of the distant frontier, can rise to the highest office in the land. America has to be about possibilities, the possibility of prosperity, not just for the privileged few, but for the many, for all of us. Working people and their kids deserve an opportunity. Lincoln knew this. He said that a country had to give people, and I quote, an open field and a fair chance. An open field and a fair chance. That's what we're going to do in the America we're going to build together. We fought a civil war that would secure a union, that would seek to fulfill the promise of equality for all. And by fits and starts, our better angels have prevailed again just enough against our worst impulses to make a new and better nation. And those better angels can prevail again now. They must prevail again now. 100 years after Lincoln spoke at Gettysburg, the Vice President, Lyndon B. Johnson, also came here, and here's what he said. He said, "Our nation found its soul and honor in these fields of Gettysburg. We must not lose that soul in dishonor now on the fields of hate." Today, we're engaged once again in a battle for the soul of the nation. The forces of darkness, the forces of division, The forces of yesterday are pulling us apart, holding us down, and holding us back. We must free ourselves of all of them. As president, I will embrace hope, not fear, peace, not violence, generosity, not greed, and light, not darkness. I'll be a president who appeals to the best in us, not the worst. I'll be a president who pushes toward the future, not one who clings to the past. I'm ready to fight for you and for our nation every day, without exception, without reservation, and with a full and devoted heart. We cannot and will not allow extremists and white supremacists to overturn the America of Lincoln and Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, to overturn the America that has welcomed immigrants from distant shores, to overturn the America that has been a haven and a home for everyone, no matter their background. From Seneca Falls to Selma to Stonewall, we're at our best when the promised America is available to all. We cannot and we will not allow violence in the street to threaten the people of this nation. We cannot and will not walk away from our obligation to, at long last, face the reckoning on race and racial justice in this country. We cannot and will not continue to be struck in the partisan politics that lets us, this virus, thrive while the public health of this nation suffers. We cannot and will not accept an economic equation that only favors those who've already got it made. Everybody deserves a shot at prosperity. Folks, thank you. Duty and history call presidents to provide for the common good, and I will. It won't be easy. It won't be easy. Our divisions today are long-standing. Economic and racial inequities have shaped us for generations. But I give you my word. I give you my word. If I'm elected president, I will marshal the ingenuity and goodwill of this nation to turn division into unity and bring us together, because I think that the people are looking for that. We can disagree about how we move forward, but we must take the first steps. And it starts with how we treat one another, how we talk to one another, how we respect one another. In his second inaugural, Lincoln said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we're in, to build up the nation's wounds, bind up the nation's wounds." Now we have our work to reunite America, to bind up our nation's wounds, to move past shadow and suspicion. And so we, you and I, together, we press on even now. After hearing the second inaugural address, Frederick Douglass told President Lincoln, "Mr. Lincoln, that was a sacred effort. We have to be dedicated to our own sacred effort. The promise of Gettysburg, that a new birth of freedom was at hand, I think it's at risk. Every generation that has followed Gettysburg has been faced with a moment when it must answer this question: whether it will allow the sacrifices made here to be in vain or be fulfilled. This is our moment to answer this essential American question for ourselves and for our time. And my answer is this: it cannot be that after all this country has been through, after all that America has accomplished, after all the years we have stood as a beacon of light to the world, it cannot be that here and now in 2020 we will allow the government of the people, by the people, and for the people to perish on this earth. No, it cannot, and it must not. We have it in our hands the ultimate power, the power to vote. It's the noblest instrument ever devised to register our will in a peaceable and productive fashion. And so we must. We must vote. We will vote, no matter how many obstacles are thrown in our way, because once America votes, America will be heard. Lincoln said, "The nation is worth fighting for." So it was, and so it is. Together, as one nation, under God, indivisible, let us join forces to fight the common foe of injustice and inequality, hate and fear. Let's conduct ourselves as Americans who love each other, who love our country, who will not destroy, but will build. We owe it to the dead who were buried here at Gettysburg. We owe that to the living and to future generations yet to be born. You and I are part of a covenant, a common story of divisions overcome and hope renewed. If we do our part, if we stand together, if we keep faith with the past and with each other, then the divisions of our time will give way to the dreams of a brighter, better future. This is our work. This is our pledge. This is our mission. And we can end this era of division. We can end the hate and the fear. We can be what we are at our best, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. We can do this.